The snowflakes fell thick and heavy against the windshield as Michael Hayes gripped the leather steering wheel of his Tesla. His knuckles whitened with each mile. The heated seats did nothing to warm the cold dread spreading through his chest. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones, the same way he'd felt danger approaching in Fallujah all those years ago. The private jet had touched down 20 minutes earlier than scheduled. Michael had cut the Silicon Valley conference short, driven by a gnawing feeling he couldn't shake. Something about his mother's voice on the phone last night, the confusion, the way she had called him by his father's name. His mansion loomed ahead through the curtain of snow, all 12,000 square feet of it, dark except for the porch lights, set on automatic timers. Home, though, lately it felt more like a museum he happened to sleep in when he wasn't working. The gates swung open with their usual mechanical precision. $23,000 for those gates. State-of-the-art, secure, safe. Or so he had thought. As his headlights swept across the property, his blood turned to ice. The pedestrian gate, the small side entrance, he'd been meaning to have the security company look at for weeks, hung open. Its electronic lock blinked red. Malfunctioned. Failed. Just like everything else he trusted to keep his mother safe. Michael slammed on the brakes, the car sliding slightly on the slick driveway. Time stopped. His 78-year-old mother, Sophia Hayes, was nowhere to be seen. The wind howled through the trees surrounding the property, snow swirling in violent eddies. If she had wandered outside in this weather. He grabbed his phone, hands trembling as he dialed the housekeeper. No answer. Of course not. Patricia had the night off. He'd assured her everything would be fine. "Damn it!" Michael shouted, slamming his hand against the steering wheel. 5 miles away, Marcus Cole stood at the window of the community center, watching volunteers stack cots for the overnight shelter. His breath fogged the glass as the storm intensified, turning the world into a snow globe shaken by an angry child. "Sorry, man, we're at capacity tonight," the volunteer coordinator said, clapping a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Storm's bringing everyone in." Marcus nodded, understanding in his eyes. "No problem. Thanks anyway." "You got somewhere to go?" the coordinator asked, concern creasing his forehead. Marcus forced a smile. "Always do." A practiced lie. At 35, Marcus Cole had once been many things: respected high school art teacher, homeowner, with a modest mortgage son who cared for his ailing mother until her final breath. Now, 3 years after losing everything in the pandemic, economic collapse, medical bills in a school district that couldn't afford the arts anymore, he was simply trying to survive another winter night. He stepped back into the howling wind, pulling his thin jacket tighter around his broad shoulders. The backpack, containing everything he owned, felt heavier tonight. Perhaps it was the weight of the approaching storm, or perhaps it was knowing there was nowhere to go. Marcus had exactly $17.43 to his name. Not enough for a motel, not even one of the hourly places on the edge of town. He started walking with no destination in mind, just moving to stay warm. Downtown was still alive with light, people inside restaurants laughing over hot meals, holiday music spilling from the stores. Everyone seemed to be going somewhere, doing something, belonging to someone. Marcus belonged nowhere. He thought about his mother as he walked, thought about her final days in the charity ward of the county hospital, her body ravaged by the cancer they couldn't afford to treat. "You'll never be poor if you still have kindness," she had whispered, her voice barely audible over the machines keeping her alive. "Money comes and goes, Marcus, but the person you choose to be, that stays forever. Promise me you'll stay kind, even when the world isn't kind back." "I promise," 32-year-old Marcus had said through his tears. "And promise me something else," his mother had continued. "Don't just survive, baby. Live. Find joy. Find people to love. Build a life worth living." Marcus had promised, but keeping that promise had been harder than he'd imagined, especially on nights like this. By early evening, Marcus found himself in a wealthy neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. He hadn't meant to come here. He just walked following one street after another, trying to stay warm, and ended up surrounded by mansions that looked like something from a movie. Stone walls, iron gates, security cameras, houses with more rooms than Marcus could count. He kept his head down and his hands in his pockets. He'd learned early that looking at the big houses too long, pausing in front of the expensive cars, got you labeled as suspicious. And suspicious for a young black man in a wealthy white neighborhood meant police attention he couldn't afford. Marcus was cutting through a side street, trying to navigate back to a part of town where he belonged, when he heard something that made him stop. Crying. Faint, confused, frightened crying. An elderly person's voice thin and wavering. Every instinct told Marcus to keep walking. Getting involved with other people's problems when you look like he did when you had no address and no identification was dangerous. It was the kind of thing that got you arrested for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the crying continued, and Marcus found his feet moving toward the sound before his brain could override them. The sound was coming from an alley between two mansions. Marcus peered into the shadows and saw an elderly woman shuffling along wearing only a nightgown and slippers. Her silver hair hung loose around her face. She was hugging a picture frame to her chest. The glass cracked, and she was crying softly, lost and confused. "Ma'am," Marcus called out gently, approaching slowly so as not to startle her. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The woman turned to him, her eyes clouded and unfocused. "I have to find Michael," she said, her voice trembling. "My son, he's waiting for me at the train station. I'm late. I'm so late." Marcus's heart sank. He recognized the signs. His grandmother had been the same way before she died. Alzheimer's. This woman was having an episode. "What's your name, ma'am?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice calm and gentle. "Sophia," she said, clutching the picture frame tighter. "Sophia Hayes, and I need to find Michael. He'll be worried." Marcus looked around. They were between two massive estates, no houses nearby. No one else on the street. Darkness was falling fast now. Sophia was wearing only a thin nightgown and house slippers. Her feet must be freezing. "Sophia," Marcus said, "do you know where you live? Can you tell me your address?" Sophia's face crumpled. I can't remember where home is." She started crying harder. "Why can't I remember?" Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. This woman needed help, needed to get home, needed medical attention. He should call 911. That was the smart thing, the safe thing. But Marcus had learned not to trust the police, had learned that when you were homeless and black interactions with law enforcement rarely went well. And if they found him here with a confused elderly white woman who couldn't explain who he was or why he was helping her, Marcus couldn't risk it, but he also couldn't leave her. "Okay," Marcus said, making a decision. "Okay, Sophia, let's figure this out together. Let's walk around and see if anything looks familiar. Maybe we can find your house." Sophia nodded, still clutching the picture frame. Marcus looked at it. A wedding photo, maybe 40 years old. A young couple smiling full of hope. "Is that you?" Marcus asked, pointing to the young woman in the photo. "Yes," Sophia said, her voice softening. "That's me and Robert, my husband. We were so young then, so happy." "It's a beautiful picture," Marcus said gently, taking the frame from her trembling hands. "Let me carry this for you, okay? We'll keep it safe. I bet Robert is worried about you. Let's get you home to him." "Okay." Sophia let him take the frame, seeming relieved to have someone else carry the burden. What Marcus didn't know was that Robert had been dead for 10 years. The storm had emptied the streets. Even the dog walkers had stayed inside. Not a single car passed them for over an hour. They walked slowly up the street, Sophia leaning on Marcus's arm. She talked as they walked, her conversation wandering through time, mixing past and present, confusing names and places. "Michael is such a good boy," she said. "Works so hard, too hard, I tell him. But he won't listen. He's always been stubborn. Always." "I'm sure he is," Marcus agreed, trying to keep her calm, trying to think of what to do. The temperature was dropping fast. Full darkness had settled over the neighborhood, and the street lights were coming on. Marcus's thin jacket did nothing against the cold. Sophia's nightgown was even thinner. "I'm cold," Sophia said, shivering. "So cold." Marcus stopped walking. He looked at Sophia, at her bare legs and thin slippers, at the way she shook with cold and confusion. He looked at the darkening sky and the mansions around them, all locked up tight behind their gates and walls. Then Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. He took off his jacket, his only protection against the cold, and wrapped it around Sophia's shoulders. It hung on her small frame, too big, but it was something. "There," Marcus said, trying to sound confident, even though he was already starting to shiver. "That's better, right?" Sophia looked at him with eyes that suddenly focused, becoming clear for just a moment. "You gave me your coat," she said wonderingly, "but now you'll be cold." "I'll be okay," Marcus lied. "I'm tougher than I look." They continued walking. Marcus tried each gate they passed, hoping to recognize Sophia's house, hoping someone would appear to help. But the street remained empty. These wealthy neighborhoods were like ghost towns after dark. Everyone locked away in their mansions, insulated from the cold and the world. After 20 minutes of walking, Sophia's legs began to give out. She stumbled, and Marcus caught her, supporting her weight. "I'm so tired," Sophia whispered. "Can we rest?" Marcus looked around desperately. They were in front of one of the biggest mansions he'd seen, a stone behemoth with columns and tall windows all dark except for some dim security lights. The gate was closed, but there was a stone wall along the perimeter with an alcove near the entrance, sheltered from the worst of the wind. "Okay," Marcus said, "let's rest here just for a minute." He helped Sophia sit down in the alcove, her back against the stone wall. The ground was freezing, but at least they were out of the wind. Marcus sat next to her, already shivering violently. As he settled down, he noticed something. The faintest hint of warmth rising from a vent near the base of the wall, a heating exhaust. It wasn't much, barely noticeable, but maybe it would be enough to keep them from freezing to death. "Tell me about Michael," Marcus said, trying to keep Sophia awake, trying to keep her talking. "What's he like?" "He's wonderful," Sophia said, her voice dreamy. "So smart. Built a company from nothing. He went to war, Iraq. Came back different. Harder. He works too much, doesn't take time for himself, doesn't remember what matters." "What matters?" Marcus asked, his teeth chattering. "People," Sophia said simply. "Love, connection. That's all that really matters in the end." Marcus pulled his backpack around and dug through it with numb fingers. At the bottom, wrapped in plastic, was his mother's blanket. The last piece of her he had. Thin, worn, full of holes, but it had been hers. It smelled like her, like home, like everything he'd lost. On one corner, his mother had embroidered the words, "Kindness is never lost." Marcus had sworn he'd never give this blanket away. It was all he had left of his mother. But looking at Sophia, shivering and confused and so fragile, Marcus knew what he had to do. He pulled out the blanket and wrapped it around both of them, pulling Sophia close to his side. She was so small, so frail. Her body shook against his. "What's this?" Sophia asked, touching the blanket. "It was my mother's," Marcus said. "She died 3 years ago. This blanket is all I have left of her." "Oh," Sophia said softly, "then you shouldn't waste it on me." "It's not wasted," Marcus said firmly. "My mom would want me to use it to help someone. She was like that. She believed in taking care of people." "She sounds like a good woman," Sophia murmured. "She was the best," Marcus whispered. That thin ribbon of warmth from the exhaust vent kept them barely above fatal temperatures. They sat huddled together as the temperature plummeted. Marcus had checked his watch earlier. It was 7:15. The night was going to be long and brutal. Marcus tried to remember everything he'd learned about surviving cold nights. Keep moving to maintain circulation. Don't fall asleep. Stay awake no matter what. Share body heat. But this was different. This was dangerous cold, deadly cold, and he had no shelter, no real protection, and a confused elderly woman who depended on him. "Tell me about your mother," Sophia said after a while, her voice weak but curious. So Marcus talked. He told Sophia about his mother's laugh, which was loud and joyful and could light up a room. About how she sang while she cooked, even though she couldn't carry a tune. About how she worked 3 jobs to keep them fed and housed, but always made time to help him with homework, to ask about his day, to show him he mattered. "She sounds wonderful," Sophia said. "She was," Marcus said. "She taught me that being poor doesn't mean being unkind, that you can lose everything material and still be rich if you have a good heart." "She was right," Sophia said. Then her eyes drifted, losing focus again. "Is Robert coming? He's supposed to pick me up from Mother's house." "He'll be here soon," Marcus said, even though he was beginning to suspect Robert was gone like his own mother was gone. The hours crawled by. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Marcus talked continuously, telling Sophia stories, asking her questions, anything to keep her awake. She drifted in and out of lucidity, sometimes calling him Michael, sometimes asking for her husband, sometimes clear and present. During one clear moment around 11 o'clock, Sophia looked at Marcus with focused eyes. "You're freezing," she said, her voice sharp with concern. "You're going to die out here trying to save me." "No, I'm not," Marcus said, though his body had stopped shivering, which he knew was a very bad sign. We're going to make it through the night, both of us. Why are you doing this? Sophia asked. You don't even know me. You could leave. You could save yourself. Marcus thought about that, thought about his mother's words, thought about the promise he'd made. Because someone needed help, Marcus said simply, and I was there. That's reason enough. Sophia reached out with a shaking hand and touched his face. Your mother raised you right, she whispered. She'd be so proud of you. Marcus felt tears freeze on his cheeks. By midnight, Marcus was losing his fight against hypothermia. His thoughts were scattered and confused. His vision blurred. His body felt heavy and distant, like it belonged to someone else. But he kept his arms around Sophia, kept the blanket wrapped around them, both kept his body between her and the worst of the cold. Marcus, Sophia's voice seemed to come from very far away. Are you still there? Still here, Marcus mumbled, forcing the words through numb lips. Don't leave me, Sophia said, and she sounded scared like a child. Please don't leave me alone. Never, Marcus promised. I'm not going anywhere. Around 2 in the morning, Marcus stopped being able to feel his hands or feet. His core temperature had dropped dangerously low. He knew in the part of his brain that could still think clearly that he was dying. But Sophia was still alive, still breathing, still warm against his body. That was enough. That had to be enough. Marcus thought about his mother, about her smile and her laugh, and the way she used to tuck him in at night. He thought about what she'd said about staying kind, even when the world wasn't kind back. I kept my promise, Mom, Marcus whispered into the darkness. I stayed kind right to the end. Sophia stirred against him. Who are you talking to, Peita? My mother, Marcus said, telling her I love her. Tell mine I love her too, Sophia said, her voice dreamy. And my Robert and my Michael. Tell them all I love them. I will, Marcus promised, even though he was pretty sure they were both going to die here, frozen on the steps of this mansion. 2 lost souls who'd found each other at the end. The snow started falling around 3 in the morning. Big, heavy flakes that accumulated, quickly covering them in white like a frozen blanket. Marcus's consciousness faded in and out. One moment he was aware of the cold and Sophia's weight against him. The next moment he was somewhere warm, somewhere safe, and his mother was there smiling at him, telling him everything would be okay. Just a little longer, Marcus told himself when he came back to awareness. Just hold on a little longer. But he didn't know if Sophia's son was even coming. Didn't know if anyone would find them. Didn't know if he'd wake up again or if the next time he closed his eyes would be the last time. All he knew was that he wasn't going to let go. Wasn't going to leave Sophia alone. Wasn't going to break his promise to stay. At 5:47 in the morning, headlights swept across the steps. Marcus tried to open his eyes, but they felt frozen shut. He heard a car door slam, heard footsteps running, heard someone screaming. Mom! Oh my God, Mom! Marcus forced his eyes open just barely. A man was running toward them, tall, wearing an expensive coat, his face twisted with horror and fear. This must be Michael, Sophia's son. Marcus tried to speak, tried to explain, but his voice wouldn't work. He gathered every bit of strength he had left and pushed the words out. She was lost, Marcus whispered. I couldn't leave her. And then everything went dark. Marcus woke up to warmth, real deep penetrating warmth that hurt almost as much as the cold had. He was in a bed with heavy blankets. An IV dripped slowly into his arm. Monitors beeped steadily beside him. Hospital. A nurse appeared in his field of vision, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. Welcome back, she said softly. You gave us quite a scare, young man. Sophia, Marcus croaked, his throat raw. Is she, Mrs. Hayes is fine, the nurse said, smiling. Mild hypothermia, but she's going to be perfectly okay, thanks to you. Her eyes filled with tears. You saved her life, sweetheart. You almost died doing it, but you saved her life. Your body heat kept her core temperature barely above fatal levels. It was a miracle of timing. Marcus felt something release in his chest. She was alive. Sophia was alive. That was all that mattered. How long? Marcus asked. You've been here for about 3 hours, the nurse said. Your core temperature was down to 90.2 degrees when you came in. Another hour. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. The door opened and a man walked in. The same man from the steps, Sophia's son. Up close, Michael Hayes looked younger than Marcus had thought, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and eyes red from crying. Behind him stood two police officers, a man and a woman, both in uniform. Marcus's stomach tightened. Here it came. The questions, the suspicion, the assumption that he must have done something wrong. The woman stepped forward. She was African American, maybe in her 50s, with kind eyes that softened her official tone. "I'm Detective Patricia Moore," she said, "and this is Officer James Rodriguez. We just need to understand what happened, son. You're not in trouble." Marcus sat up slowly, wincing at the ache that shot through his ribs. He had nothing to hide. "I was walking yesterday evening," he began hoarsely. "I'd been trying to find a shelter, but they were all full. I was just trying to stay warm. Just after sunset, I heard someone crying. I found Mrs. Hayes confused, barefoot, wearing only a nightgown. She was holding a picture frame, her wedding photo." Michael's breath caught in his throat. "She said she needed to find her son Michael, that he was waiting at the train station. She didn't know where she lived, couldn't remember her address. She was freezing, so I gave her my jacket. I took her wedding picture and put it in my backpack so she wouldn't drop it." "You gave her your only jacket?" Michael asked quietly, looking at the cracked picture frame, now sitting on the bedside table, the one the hospital staff had retrieved from Marcus's belongings. Marcus nodded. "Yes, sir, she needed it more than me. We tried to find her home, but she couldn't remember which house was hers. It was getting dark colder. She was tired. So I found a spot near your gate out of the wind, and we sat down to rest." "For 8 hours, Michael said. "You sat there for 8 hours in 15-degree weather." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied. "I gave her my mother's blanket. It's all I had left of her. I just wanted to keep Mrs. Hayes warm, keep her talking so she wouldn't fall asleep." Detective Moore scribbled notes. "She never gave you her address?" "No, ma'am. She kept asking for her husband, talking about her son, but she couldn't remember home." "Why didn't you call for help?" Officer Carter asked, his tone curious but not harsh. Marcus hesitated. The answer lived deep inside him, buried under years of watching how the world really worked. He swallowed hard. "Because I've seen what happens when people like me try to help." Michael frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Marcus's eyes drifted to the window. The snow outside blurred into memory. He was 16 again, standing under a flickering streetlight on the south side. A man had collapsed on the sidewalk, drunk maybe or hurt. Marcus had run to him, shaking his shoulder, calling for help. By the time the police arrived, people were pointing at him, shouting that he'd tried to rob the man. They saw a skinny black kid kneeling over a white man's body wallet on the ground, and that was enough. "I tried to help," Marcus said quietly. "They handcuffed me, didn't listen. It took the man waking up and saying I didn't touch him before they let me go." He looked back at them now. "So when I found Mrs. Hayes, I thought if I called, they'd see me with an old white lady in her nightgown and think the same thing. I didn't want to make things worse for her. Or for me." His voice cracked. "I just wanted to keep her safe." Detective Moore's pen stilled. Michael's face softened, his jaw trembling, as he whispered, "My God." Michael turned away, his shoulders shaking. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "did I do something wrong? I swear I was only trying to help." "No, Marcus." Michael turned back, eyes wet. "You did everything right, everything I failed to do." He moved closer to the bed. "I watched the security footage, every minute of it. I saw you give her your jacket, your blanket. I saw you wrap your arms around her to keep her warm. You were dying to save my mother." "I couldn't leave her," Marcus said simply. "She needed someone." Michael's voice broke. "My mother has Alzheimer's. She was diagnosed years ago, but the symptoms have gotten dramatically worse over the last 3 years. I hired people, built systems, everything except being here. And while I was away on business, she walked out in the middle of the night. The staff were asleep. The pedestrian gate security lock malfunctioned. I'd been meaning to get it fixed for weeks." He took a breath. "She could have died, Marcus, but she didn't because you were there." Marcus looked down, unable to speak. Detective Moore closed her notebook. "Mr. Hayes, the report will show he saved her life. We'll file it that way." She gave Marcus a small, respectful nod. "You did a good thing, son." Then she and Officer Carter quietly stepped out, leaving the two men alone. Michael stayed silent for a moment, staring out the hospital window at the snow still falling. Then he turned. Do you have somewhere to go when they release you? Marcus shook his head. No, sir, I'll figure something out. You'll come stay with us, Michael said firmly. Marcus blinked. Sir, you saved my mother's life. You're not sleeping on the streets after that. I have a guest house behind the property. It's warm, safe, private. You can stay there until you get back on your feet. I can't accept that, Marcus whispered. You don't even know me. Michael smiled sadly. I know enough. You gave everything you had for a stranger. That tells me who you are. Marcus stared at him, unsure whether to cry or laugh. Just for a few days, Michael said. Then for as long as you need, maybe longer. The snow kept falling outside the hospital window, soft and endless, covering the city in quiet white. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Michael stood beside the bed, and Marcus, weak, exhausted, still half frozen, felt something unfamiliar stir inside him. Trust. When the nurses came to check Marcus's vitals, Michael was still there. He didn't leave that night or the next. Days turned into a blur of recovery, time measured in vitals checks and medication schedules. 3 days later, the doctor signed to Marcus's discharge papers. He stood shakily in borrowed clothes, sweatpants, and a hoodie Michael had brought from home. The hospital room felt oddly safe, a neutral territory between his world and Michael's. Ready? Michael asked, hovering near the door. Marcus nodded, though he wasn't ready at all. The backpack containing his few possessions felt light against his shoulder. The nurses had carefully packed his mother's blanket, now clean and folded. Mr. Hayes, Marcus began. Michael, the other man corrected. Michael, I appreciate everything, but I can find a shelter. You've already done more than enough. Michael's expression hardened. A shelter after what you did for my mother. He stepped closer. Look, I understand pride. I do. But it's 20 degrees outside, you're still recovering, and I have an empty guest house with heat and running water. His voice softened. Just until you're back on your feet, please. The sincerity in Michael's eyes made refusal impossible. Marcus nodded once. Thank you. The drive to the Hayes mansion felt surreal. Marcus stared out the window as expensive homes grew larger, more elaborate, and snow blanketed everything, turning the wealthy neighborhood into a winter wonderland from a holiday card. They approached the familiar gates and Marcus tensed. The last time he'd seen this place, he'd been certain he was dying. You okay? Michael asked, glancing over. Yeah, Marcus lied. Fine. The gates swung open automatically. Michael's Tesla crunched up the long driveway. The mansion looked different in daylight, less intimidating, but somehow even more imposing. 3 stories of stone and glass that probably had more bathrooms than Marcus had had apartments in his life. Michael parked in front of the main entrance. I wanted to bring you here first, he said. Someone's eager to see you. Inside, the foyer opened to a cathedral ceiling with a crystal chandelier. Marble floors, art on walls that would take months to properly examine. Marcus froze just inside the door, afraid to touch anything. A small, silver-haired figure appeared from a doorway, leaning on a walker. Sophia Hayes, wearing a blue sweater and slacks, her hair neatly styled. She looked nothing like the confused woman from the storm. Is that him? She asked, her voice stronger than Marcus remembered. Is that my guardian angel? Michael smiled. Yes, Mom, this is Marcus Cole. Sophia moved forward slowly with her walker. Marcus met her halfway, taking her frail hand in his. Thank you, Sophia said, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. Thank you for staying with me, for not leaving me alone. I couldn't leave you, Marcus said simply. You needed help. Sophia patted his cheek with her free hand. You're a good boy. Your mother raised you right. The mention of his mother made Marcus's throat tight. He blinked rapidly. Come, Sophia said. Sit with me. Tell me about yourself properly. Not in the cold this time. They moved to a sitting room with plush furniture and a fireplace where flames danced behind glass. Marcus perched on the edge of a chair that probably cost more than a year's rent at his old apartment. He watched Sophia settle into her seat, noticing how her eyes seemed clearer today, more present. Mom's having a good day, Michael explained, as if reading Marcus's thoughts. The doctors call it sundowning. Her Alzheimer's symptoms get worse in the evenings. Mornings are usually better. A woman in her 50s appeared carrying a tray with tea. Patricia, Michael said, this is Marcus Cole. He's the one who saved Mom. Patricia, the housekeeper, gave Marcus an appraising look. Her eyes traveled over his borrowed clothes, his closely cropped hair, the scars on his hands from years of work. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "How wonderful," she said, placing the tray down. "Mrs. Hayes has been talking about you all morning." Marcus caught the skepticism in her voice, the subtle emphasis on talking about you. He'd expected this. People like Patricia had seen it all before, strangers worming their way into wealthy households through acts of kindness. He didn't blame her for the suspicion. They talked for nearly an hour. Sophia asked questions about Marcus's life, his teaching career, his mother. Michael sat quietly observing, occasionally adding a comment. In the daylight, with tea warming his hands and a fire crackling nearby, it felt almost normal, almost like he belonged. "I think Mom needs her rest now," Michael eventually said, noticing Sophia's eyes drooping. "Let me show you to the guest house." The guest house stood behind the main residence, a short walk across a stone path now cleared of snow. It was larger than Marcus had expected, a modern one-bedroom cottage with its own kitchen, living area, and bathroom. "There are clothes in the closet that should fit you," Michael said, opening the front door. "Patricia will stock the kitchen with groceries. If you need anything else, just ask." Marcus stepped as he had overwhelmed by the space. Clean lines, comfortable furniture, a kitchen with gleaming appliances. Sunlight streamed through large windows overlooking a snow-covered garden. "This is too much," he whispered. "It's not nearly enough," Michael countered. "Not for what you did." He hesitated. "Look, I need to be honest with you. The police told me about your situation. No permanent address, no current employment." Marcus stiffened. "I'm not looking for charity." "Good, because I'm not offering it." Michael's tone turned businesslike. "I have a proposition. My mother has a significant art collection that needs cataloging and appraising. Patricia told me you were an art teacher. I need someone with knowledge and discretion to manage the collection. The position includes accommodation and salary." Marcus blinked, processing the offer. "You'd trust a stranger with valuable art?" Michael smiled wryly. "You had every opportunity to take advantage of my mother that night. Instead, you nearly died protecting her. So yes, I'd trust you with the art." His expression grew serious. "But more importantly, my mother trusts you. She hasn't connected with anyone like this in months." The offer was tempting, more than tempting. A roof over his head, meaningful work, purpose. But the growing sense of indebtedness made Marcus uneasy. "I need to think about it," he said finally. Michael nodded, respecting the boundary. "Take all the time you need." He placed a key on the counter. "In the meantime, get some rest. Doctor's orders." After Michael left, Marcus stood in the middle of the guest house, feeling like an imposter. The silence pressed in from all sides. He moved to the bedroom, where clothes hung in the closet, jeans, shirts, sweaters, all in his size. New. Tags still attached. On the bed lay his mother's blanket, cleaned and carefully folded. Marcus sank onto the edge of the mattress. The softness enveloped him, a stark contrast to park benches and shelter cots. He ran his fingers over his mother's blanket, tracing the embroidered words. "Kindness is never lost." For the first time since the hospital, alone and safe, Marcus allowed the tears to come. Morning brought a hesitant knock at the door. Marcus opened it to find a girl of about 10 standing on the step, bundled in a purple winter coat. She had Michael's dark hair and intelligent eyes. "Are you the man who saved Grandma?" she asked, her breath clouding in the cold air. "I'm Marcus," he said, smiling. "And you must be—" "Emily." She thrust out a mittened hand. "Emily Hayes, Daddy says you're a hero." Marcus shook her small hand. "I'm not a hero," he said, uncomfortable with the word. "I just did what anyone would do." Emily shook her head, solemn as only children can be. "Daddy says most people would have walked away, but you didn't." She peered past him into the guest house. "Are you coming to breakfast? Patricia made blueberry pancakes." "I don't want to intrude on family time." Emily rolled her eyes. "You saved Grandma. That makes you family." She grabbed his hand. "Come on, the pancakes get cold." Marcus allowed himself to be led across the snowy path to the main house. In the bright kitchen, Sophia sat at a large island, Michael beside her with the newspaper. Patricia moved efficiently between the stove and counter. "Look who I found," Emily announced. "He was hiding in the guest house." Michael looked up, smiling. "Good morning, Marcus. Sleep well." Better than I have in years, Marcus admitted. The truth was he'd slept fitfully unaccustomed to the softness of a real bed, the absolute quiet, the sense of safety. Sit, sit, Sophia urged, patting the stool beside her. Patricia's pancakes are legendary. Marcus sat acutely aware of Patricia's eyes on him. The housekeeper placed a stack of pancakes before him without comment. Thank you, Marcus said, meeting her gaze directly. Something passed between them in understanding. She might not trust him yet, but they both cared for this family in their own ways. Breakfast conversation flowed easily. Emily chattered about school, her upcoming science fair project, her friends. Sophia mostly listened, occasionally adding a comment or asking a question. Michael checked his phone frequently but tried to stay present. It was all so normal, so domestic, that Marcus felt a pang of longing for what he'd lost. After breakfast, Michael pulled Marcus aside. Have you thought about my offer? Marcus nodded. I'd like to accept with one condition. Michael raised an eyebrow, which is, I want a proper contract, limited term, clear responsibilities, market rate salary, no special treatment. Marcus met Michael's gaze steadily. I need to earn my place here, not be given it out of gratitude. A slow smile spread across Michael's face. Agreed. I'll have the paperwork drawn up today. He hesitated. There's something else. The art collection is mostly stored in the East Wing Library. I'll show you after I make some calls. 2 hours later, Marcus stood in a wood-paneled library that belonged in a British period drama. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather chairs, a rolling ladder, and art. More art than he'd expected. Paintings hung on every available wall space. Sculptures occupied corners and alcoves. This is incredible, Marcus breathed, taking in an original Edward Hopper. On one wall, a small Rothko on another. My father collected most of it, Michael explained. He had an eye for emerging artists before they became famous. When he died 10 years ago, the collection passed to my mother. She added her own pieces. He gestured to several paintings of coastal scenes. She was quite accomplished herself. Marcus moved to examine the coastal paintings more closely. The brushwork was confident, the composition masterful. These are extraordinary. Your mother painted these? Michael nodded. Before the Alzheimer's, she hasn't picked up a brush in 3 years. That explained the sadness in Michael's voice when he spoke of his mother's art. It wasn't just paintings she'd lost, but a part of herself. The collection needs proper documentation, Michael continued. Insurance values, condition reports, provenance verification. Some pieces may need restoration or reframing. Marcus walked slowly around the room, mentally calculating the worth. This is museum-quality work. Millions easily. Which is why I need someone I can trust. Michael's phone buzzed. He checked it with a frown. I have to take this. Make yourself at home. Explore. The catalog attempt my father started is in that desk. After Michael left, Marcus moved through the library in a daze, examining each piece with reverence. He found the catalog in an old leather binder, handwritten notes about acquisitions dating back decades. The most recent entry was from 7 years ago. He was so absorbed that he didn't notice Patricia until she spoke from the doorway. He's using you, you know. Marcus looked up, startled. Patricia stood with her arms crossed, her expression neutral. What do you mean, Mr. Hayes feels guilty. He wasn't here when his mother needed him. You were. This job, it's his way of dealing with that guilt. She stepped into the room. I've worked for this family for 30 years, watched Michael grow from a boy to a man, watched Mrs. Hayes fade away bit by bit. I protect them. I understand, Marcus said quietly. You're suspicious of my intentions. That's fair. What are your intentions? Patricia asked bluntly. Marcus considered his answer carefully. To do the job I've been hired to do, to repay a kindness with honest work. Nothing more. Patricia studied him, searching for deceit. Mrs. Hayes has had 3 episodes this month alone. She wanders, forgets where she is, who people are. Some days she doesn't recognize her own son. Her voice softened slightly. But she remembers you. The implication hung in the air. Don't hurt her. Don't disappoint her. I won't let her down, Marcus promised. Or Michael. Patricia's posture relaxed fractionally. See that you don't. She turned to leave, then paused. Lunch is at 12:30. Mrs. Hayes takes her medication at 1. She'll likely nap after that. It was an olive branch. A small one, but still. Thank you, Patricia. The next few days settled into a rhythm. Marcus spent mornings in the library cataloging the collection, making notes about pieces that needed attention. Afternoons often included tea with Sophia, who had good days and bad moments of sharp lucidity mixed with confused wandering. On the 4th day, Marcus discovered a locked door off the main library. Michael provided the key without hesitation. Mom's studio, he explained, untouched since her diagnosis. The studio was a time capsule. Easels with half-finished canvases, paints dried in pallets, brushes still in jars. Sunlight streamed through north-facing windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. She wouldn't let anyone in here, Michael said, lingering in the doorway. Not even to clean. Said it was her sanctuary. Marcus moved carefully through the space, feeling like an intruder in a sacred place. Sophia's artwork covered the walls, studies, sketches, completed pieces. Her style had evolved over the years from precise realism to something more impressionistic, emotional. These should be shown, Marcus said. They tell a story, her story. Michael's phone rang. Again, it seemed to ring constantly. I have to take this. Board meeting in 10 minutes. He was gone before Marcus could respond. Later that afternoon, during tea with Sophia, Marcus brought up the studio. Michael showed me your art studio today, he said gently. Your work is beautiful. Sophia's eyes lit up. My studio, is it still there? The question broke Marcus's heart a little. Yes, it's still there, exactly as you left it. I'd like to see it, Sophia said. Would you take me? Marcus hesitated. Shouldn't we ask Michael first? Michael, Sophia said with a dismissive wave. He's always so busy, always working, just like his father. Her eyes suddenly focused with laser intensity. Do you know what the problem is with successful men, Marcus? They think time is infinite, that there will always be another day to do the important things. But time is the one thing money can't buy. The clarity of her insight startled him. Let me check with Patricia, he said. We'll need your walker. Patricia was reluctant, but eventually agreed, insisting on accompanying them. The short walk from the sitting room to the studio tired Sophia visibly. By the time they reached the door, she leaned heavily on her walker. I haven't been in here in so long, she murmured as Marcus unlocked the door. The studio looked different with its creator present, more alive somehow. Sophia moved slowly inside, touching surfaces, brushes, frames, reacquainting herself with her domain. She stopped before an unfinished canvas, a beach scene with figures walking along the shore. Robert and Michael, she said softly, walking at Cape Cod, summer of 2005. Patricia exchanged a look with Marcus. Sophia remembered. Mrs. Hayes, Patricia said gently, perhaps this is enough for today. You should rest. But Sophia was already moving to an easel, touching dried paints with trembling fingers. I never finished this one, she said. Never got the light right. Marcus stepped closer. The light looks perfect to me. Sophia smiled at him. You're kind, but no, it needed something more. She turned to Marcus suddenly. Would you bring me fresh paints? Brushes, I'd like to work again. Patricia interjected quickly. Mrs. Hayes, the doctor said I'm dying by inches. Sophia interrupted with unexpected steel. My mind is going, Patricia. We all know it. But today, right now, I remember. I remember how to mix colors, how to hold a brush. Tomorrow, I might not. So please let me paint while I still can. The room fell silent. Marcus looked to Patricia, whose eyes had filled with tears. I'll get your supplies, Mrs. Hayes, Patricia said finally, but only for an hour. You need your rest. After Patricia left, Sophia turned to Marcus. She mothers everyone, she said with affection. Has since she was 25 and came to work for us. She raised Michael as much as I did when Robert was building the business. She cares deeply for your family. Yes. Sophia moved to the window, looking out at the snow-covered garden. And she's right to be suspicious of you. Too many people have tried to take advantage over the years. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I know you're not, Sophia interrupted. I knew it the moment you gave me your coat in the snow. A man who gives his only protection to a stranger is not a man who takes advantage. She turned to face him. Tell me about your mother, properly this time. Not when we're freezing to death. So Marcus told her about growing up in Chicago's South Side, about his mother working multiple jobs to support them, about her encouraging his art and education, about the pride in her eyes when he became the first in their family to graduate college, about nursing her through cancer, about losing everything after her medical bills drained his savings and the school district cut his position due to budget constraints. Sophia listened intently, asking occasional questions. When Patricia returned with art supplies, she found them sitting by the window deep in conversation. "Your hour starts now," Patricia announced, setting down the supplies. To everyone's surprise, Sophia worked with remarkable focus. Her hands shook, but her eye remained true. She mixed colors with muscle memory that transcended her cognitive decline. Marcus and Patricia watched in wonder as she transformed the unfinished beach scene, adding golden afternoon light that brought the figures to life. "It's Michael and his father," Patricia whispered to Marcus, the summer before Robert died. An hour stretched to two with Patricia's reluctant permission. When Sophia finally set down her brush, exhaustion etched on her face, the painting glowed with new life. "Now it's finished," she said, satisfaction in her voice. "The light is right." That evening, Michael returned late from the office to find Marcus waiting in the kitchen. "Is something wrong?" Michael asked, setting down his briefcase. "No, but there's something you should see." Marcus led him to the studio where Sophia's newly completed painting rested on the easel, now dry. Michael stopped dead in the doorway. "She painted this today, yes," Marcus said quietly. "She remembered Michael. She remembered Cape Cod. She remembered your father. She remembered how to paint." Michael moved closer to the canvas, his fingers hovering over the surface without touching. The figures on the beach, a tall man and a teenage boy, walked with their backs to the viewer, heading toward the water. But the way Sophia had painted them, their postures, the slight lean of the man toward the mark conveyed a conversation. Intimacy. Love. "I haven't seen this in years," Michael whispered. "This trip, it was the last vacation we took before Dad got sick." He looked at Marcus. "How did this happen?" She wanted to see her studio. When she saw the unfinished canvas, she knew exactly what it needed. Marcus hesitated. "Your mother is still in there, Michael. The disease has taken a lot, but not everything. Not yet." Michael's professional mask cracked. For the first time since they'd met, Marcus saw the raw grief beneath. "I've been losing her by inches for 3 years," Michael said, his voice rough. "Watching her disappear right in front of me. That's why she needs you now. Not just your systems and staff, you." Michael's phone rang, the sound jarring in the quiet studio. He silenced it without checking the caller. "I've built this company from nothing," he said. "Sacrificed everything for it. Relationships, marriage, family time. Told myself it was worth it because I was providing security. After Iraq, after what I saw there," he trailed off. "Work made sense. People didn't. Things I could control. People I couldn't." The revelation surprised Marcus. This successful, confident man carried his own wounds. "What was your unit?" Marcus asked. "Army Corps of Engineers, Fallujah, then Baghdad. You serve." Marcus shook his head. "No, but my cousin did. Marines, he came back different." Michael nodded, understanding passing between them. "The company became my mission after discharge. Something to focus on. Build. Control." His eyes returned to the painting. "I've missed so much." Before Marcus could respond, a scream echoed through the house. Both men froze, then ran toward the sound. They found Emily in the hallway outside Sophia's bedroom, her face pale with terror. "Grandma's gone," she cried. "I went to say goodnight, and she's not in her room. Patricia." Michael called, his voice sharp with fear. The housekeeper appeared from another room. "I just checked on her 30 minutes ago. She was resting." "Oh, search the house," Michael ordered. "Every room. She can't have gone far." They split up, moving through the vast mansion, calling Sophia's name. Marcus checked the studio, the library, the sitting rooms. No sign of her. He was heading toward the kitchen when something caught his eye through a window, a small figure moving across the snow-covered lawn toward the road. "Michael," he shouted, "outside front lawn." Marcus ran for the door, not waiting for a response. The night air hit him like a physical blow, cold and sharp. Snow had begun falling again, large flakes catching in his eyelashes as he sprinted across the lawn. Sophia had nearly reached the main gate, wearing only her nightgown and robe. No shoes, no coat. "Sophia," Marcus called. "Sophia, wait." She turned, her expression confused, frightened. In the dim light from the distant house, she looked fragile, ghostly. I need to find Michael, she said when Marcus reached her. He's waiting at the train station. Sophia, Marcus said gently, taking her cold hands in his. Michael's at the house. He's looking for you. You're home. She shook her head, frustration and fear battling across her face. No, no, Michael's a little boy. He's waiting for me. I'm late. I'm always late. Marcus realized she was lost in a memory, perhaps 30 years ago, her son as a child waiting. Let me take you to him, Marcus offered, slipping off his jacket and wrapping it around her shoulders. I know where he is. Michael appeared beside them, breathless from running. Mom, he said, relief flooding his voice. Mom, what are you doing out here? Sophia looked at him without recognition. I have to find my son, she insisted. He's waiting for me. Michael's face crumpled. Mom, it's me. It's Michael. But Sophia was shaking her head, becoming more agitated. No, no, my Michael is 10 years old. He's at the train station. Marcus caught Michael's eye, silently communicating. Play along. Mrs. Hayes, Marcus said, this man works at the station. He can take us to Michael. Isn't that right, sir? After a moment of confusion, Michael nodded. Yes, that's right. I know exactly where your son is waiting. Let me take you to him. The tension drained from Sophia's body. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so late. He must be so worried. Together, they guided her back toward the house, Marcus providing steady support while Michael played his role as the helpful stranger. By the time they reached the warmth of the foyer, Sophia was shivering violently. Patricia rushed forward with blankets. Oh, Mrs. Hayes, she murmured, wrapping them around her frail shoulders. We need to get her warm, Michael said. Call Dr. Reynolds. While Michael spoke with the doctor on the phone, Marcus sat with Sophia in the sitting room. The fire had been built up, and Patricia had brought hot tea. Sophia's shivers gradually subsided, but the confusion remained. She kept asking about her son about being late. Marcus held her hand, speaking soothingly. Your son is fine. He knows you're coming. He sent this nice man to help us. He nodded toward Michael, who was just ending his call. The doctor's on his way, Michael said, kneeling beside his mother. How are you feeling, Mom? Sophia looked at him, a faint glimmer of recognition flickering. Do I know you? Michael swallowed hard. Yes, Mom, you do. You look like my Robert, she said, touching his face. Around the eyes. That's because I'm his son, Michael said gently. I'm Michael, your son. Sophia's brow furrowed as she tried to reconcile the man before her with the child in her memory. Michael is 10, she insisted, but with less certainty. I was 10, Michael agreed. But that was a long time ago. I grew up. Tears filled Sophia's eyes. I've lost time again, haven't I? The disease. It's stealing my memories. The moment of clarity was heartbreaking. Marcus watched as Michael gathered his mother into his arms, holding her as she wept. It's okay, Mom, he soothed. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. The doctor arrived 30 minutes later, a silver-haired man with kind eyes and a gentle manner. He examined Sophia, who had calmed but remained disoriented. No signs of hypothermia, he told Michael afterward. But this wandering is concerning. It's the second episode in a week. What can we do? Michael asked. We can adjust her medication, the doctor said. But frankly, she needs more supervision. 24-hour care. Someone who knows how to handle these episodes. I'll hire more staff, Michael said automatically. The doctor shook his head. It's not just about bodies in the house, Michael. It's about familiar faces, consistency. Your mother responds best to people she knows and trusts. After the doctor left, Michael found Marcus in the kitchen, making tea for Sophia. Thank you, Michael said, for finding her. Again. Marcus nodded. She was looking for you, or rather, the 10-year-old version of you. Michael leaned against the counter, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. The doctor wants her to have round-the-clock care. Familiar faces. He ran a hand through his hair. I need to be here more. Cut back at work. Delegate. That sounds right, Marcus agreed. I can't do it alone, Michael said. Patricia already works more than she should. Emily needs stability, normalcy. He looked directly at Marcus. I know we just formalized your position with the art collection, but I'd like to expand it. Be part of my mother's care team. You have a way with her. She trusts you. The offer was unexpected. I don't have any training in elder care or memory disorders. Neither did I, Michael said with a hint of bitterness. I learned through trial and error, the hard way. He sighed. Look, you don't have to decide right now. Think about it. Marcus nodded, though he already knew his answer. How could he walk away from Sophia now? The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Marcus was cataloging a series of small prints in the library when Patricia appeared at the door. Someone to see Mr. Hayes, she announced, his sister. Marcus followed Patricia to the main foyer, where a striking woman in her mid-30s stood removing leather gloves. She had Michael's dark hair and sharp features dressed in a tailored coat that screamed money. Sandra, Michael greeted her coming down the stairs. This is a surprise. Is it? She replied coolly. Mom wanders off in a snowstorm, nearly freezes to death, and you don't think to call me? It's been a hectic few days, Michael said, giving his sister a brief hug. I was going to call. I had to hear about it from James Rodriguez, Sandra said. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Finding out from a police officer that my mother was found half frozen with some homeless man. Her gaze landed on Marcus standing quietly beside Patricia. Her eyes narrowed. Is this him, the hero James mentioned? Marcus stepped forward. Marcus Cole, you must be Sandra. Michael has told me about you. Has he? Sandra didn't offer her hand. Funny he hasn't told me anything about you. Michael intervened smoothly. Marcus is working with Mom's art collection. He's staying in the guest house. Sandra's eyebrows rose. Is he? How convenient. The implication hung in the air, ugly and undisguised. Marcus felt his face grow warm. Sandra, Michael warned, Marcus saved Mom's life. So I heard, Sandra said, removing her coat and handing it to Patricia without looking at her. And now he's living on the property, working with the multi-million-dollar art collection, getting cozy with the family. How quickly things progress. Marcus took a step back. I should let you two talk. Family matters. No, Michael said firmly. You don't need to leave. Sandra is just concerned. Concerned is an understatement, Sandra snapped. Mom wanders off, and suddenly there's a stranger living on the property. A homeless man with no references, no background check, nothing. I ran a background check, Michael said quietly. This was news to Marcus. He stiffened. Did you? Sandra asked. Then you know about his eviction, his debt, his lack of steady employment for the past 3 years. I know everything I need to know, Michael replied. He gave his coat, his only blanket, and nearly his life to save our mother. What else matters? Sandra turned to Marcus. I'm not saying you didn't do a good deed. You did, thank you. But good deeds don't automatically earn you a place in our home, in our family. I didn't ask for any of this, Marcus said, finding his voice. I just wanted to help a lost woman in a snowstorm. And now you're living in our guest house, Sandra pointed out. Working with our family treasures, quite a step up from a shelter, isn't it? Marcus felt a familiar anger rising, the anger of being judged, dismissed, reduced to circumstances beyond his control. But he kept his voice steady. You're right to be protective of your family, he said. In your position, I might feel the same way. But I'm not here to take advantage of anyone. I'm here to do a work to repay a kindness with honest work. If that's not enough assurance, I'll leave right now. For the first time, Sandra seemed to really look at him. Her expression remained skeptical, but some of the hostility faded. Mom needs stability, she said. Familiarity, not new people coming and going. Which is exactly why Marcus should stay, Michael countered. Mom connects with him. She remembers him even on her bad days. Sandra's attention snapped back to her brother. What about the memory care facility we discussed, the one in Vermont? I'm not sending her away, Michael said with finality. This is her home. She stays here with us. The siblings locked eyes in silent battle. Marcus felt like an intruder witnessing something private, painful. I'll check on Sophia, he said quietly, easing toward the hallway. Neither sibling acknowledged him as he left their argument, continuing in hushed, intense tones. Marcus found Sophia in her sitting room, gazing out the window at the snow. Emily sat cross-legged on the floor beside her chair, reading aloud from a book. The scene was so peaceful, so normal, that it was hard to reconcile with the tension in the foyer. Marcus, Sophia greeted him with a smile. Her eyes were clear today. Present. Come join us. Emily is reading me The Secret Garden. Marcus sat in a chair opposite Sophia. Emily continued reading, her young voice adding life and energy to the classic story. Sophia listened intently, her gnarled fingers gently stroking her granddaughter's hair. The door opened, and Sandra entered, her expression softening at the sight of her niece. "Aunt Sandra," Emily jumped up for a hug. "You're here." "Hello, sweetheart," Sandra said, embracing the child. "I've missed you." She turned to her mother, leaning down to kiss her cheek. "Hi, Mom. How are you feeling today?" Sophia looked up, her eyes focusing on her daughter's face. "Sandra," she said, recognition clear. "What a lovely surprise. Are you staying for dinner?" "I'm staying for a few days," Sandra said, glancing briefly at Marcus. "I thought Michael could use some help." "That's wonderful," Sophia said. "It's been too long since you visited." A flash of guilt crossed Sandra's face. "I know, Mom. I'm sorry. Work has been crazy." "Always work with you too," Sophia said, but there was affection in her tone. "Just like your father. Never enough hours in the day for the important things." The same insight she had shared with Marcus. The clarity of it was startling. Sandra noticed Marcus watching and straightened. "Emily, would you give Grandma and me a moment with Mr. Cole?" Emily looked between the adults, sensing tension. "But I was reading a Mom." "It's okay, Emily," Marcus interrupted gently. "We can finish the story later." Once Emily had reluctantly left, Sandra closed the door and turned to Marcus. "I spoke with Michael. He seems determined that you stay." "Sandra," Sophia said, a warning in her voice. "Whatever you're about to say, remember, this is my house too." Sandra sighed. "I'm just looking out for the family, Mom, making sure we're not being taken advantage of." "Marcus saved my life," Sophia said firmly. "When I was lost and confused, he stayed with me, gave me his coat, his blanket, held me through the night to keep me warm." Her gaze sharpened. "Would you have done the same for a stranger?" Sandra looked taken aback. "Mom, that's not fair." "Life rarely is," Sophia replied. She turned to Marcus. "Do you know why I wandered out that night?" Both Sandra and Marcus fell silent, waiting. "I was tired," Sophia said quietly. "Tired of being confused. Tired of not recognizing my own children. Tired of being a burden." Her voice trembled slightly. "I thought maybe if I just walked into the cold, it would end peacefully. Just sleep and not wake up." "Mom," Sandra whispered, horror in her voice. "But then Marcus found me," Sophia continued. "This stranger who had nothing, who was suffering himself, and he didn't walk away. He stayed. He kept me warm. He kept me alive." She reached out and took Marcus's hand. "He reminded me that life is worth living. Even when it's hard, even when you're losing yourself, because there are still people worth living for." The room fell silent except for the crackling of the fire. Marcus felt the weight of Sophia's words, the responsibility of them. Sandra moved to kneel beside her mother's chair, taking her other hand. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't realize you felt that way." "How could you?" Sophia said gently. "You're never here." The simple truth landed like a physical blow. Sandra flinched. "I'm here now," she said, "and I'll stay as long as you need me." Sophia smiled sadly. "What I need, what I've always needed, is my family. Not just in crisis, but in everyday moments. Sunday dinners, afternoon tea, bedtime stories with Emily." She looked between Sandra and Marcus. "I may not always remember your names. I may not always know who you are. But somewhere deep inside, where the disease can't reach, I know who loves me and who stays." 3 weeks passed. Winter's grip on the city began to loosen, patches of grass emerging through melting snow like islands in a white sea. Inside the Hayes mansion, a different kind of thawing was taking place. The art exhibition was Patricia's idea, surprisingly. She had entered the studio one afternoon to find Sophia working at an easel, Marcus sitting quietly nearby, sketching in a notebook. "Mrs. Hayes has completed 3 new paintings this week," Patricia announced to Michael over dinner that evening. "Perhaps it's time to celebrate her work properly." Michael looked up from his phone, the constant companion he was learning slowly to set aside. "What did you have in mind?" "An exhibition," Marcus suggested, catching Patricia's thought. "Here in the house. Small, intimate. Family, friends, perhaps, some of the art community." Emily bounced in her seat. "Like a real gallery. Can I help?" Sandra, who had extended her visit to 2 weeks and now commuted to her investment firm 3 days a week, considered the idea. Mother always wanted a proper showing. Father kept promising to arrange it. Then it's decided, Michael said, looking at his mother. If you're comfortable with it, Mom. Sophia, having one of her increasingly frequent good days, smiled. I'd like that very much. The preparations transformed the household. The East Wing library was rearranged to create a gallery space. Marcus worked tirelessly selecting pieces that showcase Sophia's artistic journey from her early precise landscapes to her recent more emotional works. Michael took unprecedented time away from the office handling invitations and logistics. Sandra leveraged her connections in the art world to ensure attendance from influential gallery owners and critics. Even Patricia softened sharing stories of Sophia's artistic process from decades of observation. Emily appointed herself assistant curator, following Marcus everywhere with a clipboard, solemnly recording his decisions about lighting and placement. Her questions were endless perceptive. Why are you putting Grandma's beach paintings in the middle? She asked one afternoon as they arranged the exhibition. Because they tell the most important story, Marcus explained. They show your grandmother's heart, what matters most to her. Family, Emily said with certainty. Marcus smiled. Exactly. The morning of the exhibition, Marcus found Sophia in her studio standing before her most recent work, a large canvas capturing the winter night she'd wandered into the snow. In the painting, two silhouettes huddled in an alcove against white darkness, a thin ribbon of golden warmth rising from below them. The figures were barely defined, more suggestion than form, but the intimacy between them was palpable. It's beautiful, Marcus said softly from the doorway. Sophia turned smiling. I wanted to remember. Even when I forget everything else, I wanted to remember that night. The kindness of a stranger. I'm hardly estranged now, Marcus pointed out. No, Sophia agreed. Your family. The word hung between them, weighted with meaning. In these weeks, Marcus had become more than an employee, more than a caretaker. The lines had blurred into something neither of them had expected. The exhibition opens in 3 hours, Marcus said, changing the subject. Patricia's already fussing about your dress. Sophia laughed, a bright sound that filled the studio. Patricia has been fussing about my clothing for 30 years. Why stop now? As Marcus helped her back to her room, Sophia leaned heavily on his arm. He noticed but said nothing. These moments of weakness had been increasing, though she hid them well from her children. Marcus, she said as they reached her door, promise me something. Anything. After I'm gone. Sophia. No, she interrupted firmly. Let me say this. After I'm gone, remind them what matters. Michael works too hard. Sandra stays away too much. They're afraid of loss, so they hide in what they can control. Remind them that time is the only true wealth. Marcus nodded, his throat tight. I promise. The exhibition exceeded all expectations. By 7 that evening, the library had transformed into an elegant gallery space. Sophia's paintings hung on the walls, perfectly lit, to capture their emotion and detail. Catering staff circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Soft classical music played from hidden speakers. Sophia held court in the center of the room, resplendent in a midnight blue dress that Patricia had indeed fussed over. Her silver hair was styled elegantly, her makeup subtle but flattering. On good days like today, it was easy to forget the disease lurking beneath the surface. Michael remained close to his mother's side, attentive in a way Marcus had not seen before. He introduced her to guests with obvious pride, his phone nowhere in sight. Sandra moved through the crowd with practiced ease, directing key art world figures to specific paintings, speaking knowledgeably about her mother's technique and influences. Emily, dressed in her Sunday best, appointed herself official greeter, solemnly shaking hands with arriving guests and directing them to the refreshments. Her serious demeanor made several visitors smile indulgently. Marcus kept to the periphery, watching the scene unfold. This wasn't his world. The wealthy guests in designer clothing, discussing art in terms of investment potential and market trends, reminded him of the vast gulf between his life and the Hayes family's. Patricia appeared beside him, offering a glass of champagne. You've done well, she said, her usual reserve softening. Mrs. Hayes hasn't looked this happy in years. It was your idea, Marcus reminded her. Patricia shook her head. The exhibition was my suggestion. But her happiness, that's because of you. Because you saw her when she was lost. Before Marcus could respond, a distinguished older man approached them. You must be Marcus Cole, he said, extending his hand. Michael speaks highly of your work with the collection. I understand you were an art teacher. Yes, Marcus confirmed, surprised. High school level. Thomas Reynolds, the man introduced himself. I chair the board at the Westside Community Arts Center. We're expanding our youth program and need someone with both artistic knowledge and teaching experience. Michael mentioned you might be interested. Marcus glanced across the room at Michael, who raised his glass slightly in acknowledgement. I would be, Marcus said carefully, very interested. Excellent. We should talk soon. Reynolds handed him a business card. The position includes studio space for your own work. Michael mentioned you are quite talented yourself. After Reynolds moved on, Marcus sought out Michael, finding him near one of Sophia's seascape paintings. The Westside Community Arts Center, Marcus asked quietly. Michael smiled. You mentioned your concern about their funding issues. I made a few calls. You didn't have to do that. I know. Michael's expression grew serious. But you were right about what matters. About time being the one thing money can't buy. I've spent years building wealth while neglecting the people who make life worth living. He looked across the room at his mother, animated as she described a painting to a small group. I can't get back the time I've wasted, but I can try to use what resources I have more wisely now. The exhibition's centerpiece was revealed halfway through the evening, Sophia's painting of the winter night. When the covering was removed, a hush fell over the crowd. The raw emotion of the piece, the vulnerability and connection it depicted, seemed to touch everyone who viewed it. She's titled it Choices in the Winter Night, Michael explained to the gathered guests. It commemorates a night 3 weeks ago when two strangers made choices that changed both their lives forever. Sophia stood before the painting, her expression serene. We all face moments of choice, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room, moments when we decide whether to walk away or to stay, whether to protect ourselves or to extend a hand to someone in need. She turned to Marcus, beckoning him forward. This painting honors a man who chose kindness over self-preservation, who gave everything he had to a stranger in the snow. Marcus reluctantly joined Sophia before the painting, uncomfortable with the attention, but unwilling to refuse her. My mother taught me that kindness is never lost, he said simply, that even when you have nothing material to give, you can still offer compassion. A woman in the crowd raised her hand. Is this painting for sale? Sophia shook her head. No, this one stays in the family. But I've decided that proceeds from the sale of any other works tonight will establish a foundation, the Sophia Hayes Foundation for Arts Education, with a particular focus on bringing art to underserved communities. This announcement was met with enthusiastic applause. Sandra, standing nearby, looked as surprised as everyone else. Michael's expression was unreadable, but his eyes shone with emotion. The evening continued successfully, with several paintings sold for impressive sums. Critics praised Sophia's work, particularly her newest pieces, noting their emotional depth and technical skill despite her age and health challenges. As the last guest departed, the family gathered in the now quiet library. Emily had fallen asleep on a leather couch, exhausted from her duties as greeter. Patricia moved quietly through the space, directing staff in the cleanup efforts. Well, Sandra said, slipping off her heels with a sigh of relief. That was quite a night. Michael nodded, loosening his tie. A success by any measure. Sophia sat in her favorite chair, fatigue evident in her posture, but satisfaction in her eyes. It felt good to be seen for my work, not my illness. People were genuinely moved, Mom, Sandra said, especially by the winter night painting. As they should be, Sophia replied. It's the most honest work I've ever created. Marcus began to slip away, feeling the family needed time alone, but Sophia called him back. Marcus, stay please. This concerns you too. He returned, standing awkwardly at the edge of their family circle. The foundation, Sophia said. I didn't consult any of you, and for that I apologize. But it feels right. Art saved me throughout my life, through Robert's long hours building the business, through raising two strong-willed children, through the loneliness after he died. Art gave me purpose, voiced solace. It's a wonderful idea, Mom, Michael assured her. I want it to be a family endeavor, Sophia continued. Michael, your business acumen, Sandra, your investment knowledge, and Marcus, your understanding of art education and community needs. Sandra raised an eyebrow. You're including Marcus in a family endeavor. Yes, Sophia said firmly. I am. The siblings exchanged glances. Michael nodded slightly. Sandra sighed, but her expression softened. If that's what you want, Mom. It is, Sophia said. Marcus has earned his place here, not just by saving my life that night, but by how he's enriched it since. The next morning, Marcus woke early in the guest house. The exhibition's success had left him both exhilarated and unsettled. Sophia's declaration that he was part of the family, the foundation plans, Thomas Reynolds' job offer, all of it represented possibilities he hadn't dared imagine 3 weeks ago. He was sketching at the small desk when a knock came at the door. Michael stood on the step, already dressed for the office, but unusually casual in slacks and an open-collared shirt rather than his usual suit. "Got a minute?" Michael asked. Of course. Michael entered, glancing around the guest house that Marcus had gradually made his own. Art books stacked on tables, sketches pinned to walls, a half-finished painting on an easel by the window. "You're working again," Michael observed. Marcus nodded. "Your mother encouraged me, said it was time to stop hiding from my own talent." "She's usually right," Michael said with a small smile. He hesitated, then continued. "I wanted to talk to you about the foundation and about your role here." "Michael." "Let me finish," Michael interrupted gently. "When I offered you the position cataloging the collection, it was partly out of gratitude. I won't deny that. But you've proven yourself invaluable not just with the art, but with my mother, with Emily, with our family." He paced the small living area, choosing his words carefully. "The foundation needs a director, someone with both artistic knowledge and a genuine understanding of how art can transform lives. I can handle the financial aspects, Sandra, the legal structure, but the heart of it, that should be you." Marcus stared at him, processing the offer. "That's generous, but I'm not sure I'm qualified." "Who better?" Michael countered. "You've lived the reality of many of the people we want to help. You understand the transformative power of art education better than anyone I know, and you have my mother's absolute trust." Before Marcus could respond, Michael's phone rang. He checked the display and sighed. "The office, I need to take this." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Just think about it, okay? No pressure, no deadline." After Michael left, Marcus sat at his desk, staring at the sketch before him. It showed Sophia at her easel, her face in profile concentration evident in every line. He had captured something essential about her, the dignity beneath the frailty, the artist still vibrant within the aging woman. Another knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. This time it was Sandra, dressed for her commute to the city. "May I come in?" she asked, more formal than her brother had been. Marcus gestured for her to enter. She stepped inside but remained standing, surveying the space with curious eyes. "So," she said finally, "a foundation director. Quite a promotion from homeless art teacher." Marcus tensed. "I haven't accepted anything." "But you will," Sandra said, not unkindly. "It's a good offer. Life-changing. Is that why you're here, to warn me against getting ideas above my station?" Sandra's expression shifted, vulnerability briefly visible beneath her polished exterior. "Actually, I came to apologize. This was unexpected. For my assumptions, my suspicion." She met his gaze directly. "I was wrong about you, Marcus. I saw circumstances, not character." Marcus nodded, accepting the apology without words. Sandra moved to the window, looking out at the garden, where patches of green were beginning to emerge. "When I first arrived and saw you here, I thought you were taking advantage of my brother's guilt, my mother's gratitude. I was trying to protect my family." "I understand that," Marcus said. "Family is worth protecting." "Yes, it is." Sandra turned to face him. "Which is why I need to ask you directly with no one else around. What are your intentions here?" "My intentions? With my family, with this position, with all of it." Marcus considered his answer carefully. "When I found your mother that night, I had no intentions beyond helping someone who needed it. Everything since then has been unexpected, overwhelming sometimes. And now, Marcus said slowly, I want to honor what your mother sees in me. The potential, the value. I want to use whatever skills and perspective I have to make this foundation meaningful, not just another tax write-off for wealthy donors. I want to create opportunities for kids like I used to teach, who have talent but no resources, no connections." Sandra studied him, her expression unreadable. "And my mother? Your relationship with her is unusual." She saved me as much as I saved her, Marcus said simply. She reminded me who I am beyond my circumstances. I care about her deeply. Something in his tone must have satisfied Sandra. She nodded once decisively. Then we understand each other. If you accept the position, you'll have my support. Not just for my mother's sake, but because I believe the foundation needs exactly what you've described. She moved toward the door. Just don't make me regret trusting you, Marcus Cole. I won't, he promised. After Sandra left, Marcus returned to his sketch, adding details, refining lines. His mind churned with possibilities, with choices. The job offer from Thomas Reynolds represented independence, a chance to rebuild his life on his own terms. The foundation directorship offered a larger canvas, more resources, but also ties to the Hayes family that would be difficult to untangle if things went wrong. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts once more. This time it was Patricia carrying a tray. You missed breakfast, she said by way of explanation, setting the tray on the small dining table. Mrs. Hayes was asking for you. Marcus glanced at the clock, surprised to see how late it had grown. I lost track of time. Is she all right? One of her confused days, Patricia said. She keeps asking for Robert. Marcus's heart sank. The good days had been more frequent lately, but the bad days were still devastating. I'll come right away, he said, rising. Patricia placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. First eat something. Mrs. Hayes is resting now. She glanced at the sketch on his desk. You've captured her spirit. Marcus looked at the drawing. I've been trying to understand her. All of you, really. Patricia smiled faintly. And have you understood, parts, Marcus admitted. The Hayes family is complicated. All families are, Patricia replied. Some just have more expensive complications than others. She smoothed her apron, a gesture Marcus had come to recognize as her gathering thoughts. Mr. Hayes told me about the foundation offer. News travels fast. In this house, like lightning, Patricia's expression grew serious. Whatever you decide, know that Mrs. Hayes sees you clearly, even when her mind is clouded. She recognized something in you that night in the snow, something beyond circumstance or background, something essential. With that cryptic statement, she left him to his breakfast and his thoughts. Marcus found Sophia in her sitting room, gazing out the window as she often did on difficult days. She turned as he entered, her expression brightening with recognition. Marcus, she said, I was wondering where you were. Just working on some sketches, he said, taking the seat opposite of her. How are you feeling today? Foggy, she admitted, like looking at the world through gauze. Some moments are clear, others slip away before I can grasp them. She reached for his hand. But I remember last night, the exhibition, the foundation announcement. It was a wonderful evening, Marcus said. Your work was greatly admired. And what of Michael's offer? Have you decided? Marcus shouldn't have been surprised that she knew. I'm still considering it. Sophia nodded. It's a significant decision, not just professionally, but personally. Tying your future to this family has complications. Patricia said something similar. Patricia knows us better than we know ourselves sometimes, Sophia said with a smile. 30 years of observation gives one perspective. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the garden continued its slow awakening from winter. Birds flitted among the bare branches of ornamental trees. I had another episode last night, Sophia said suddenly. After everyone went to bed, I woke up convinced Robert was still alive, that I needed to prepare his breakfast before he left for work. Her voice trembled slightly. It's frightening losing pieces of yourself, losing time, reality. I can't imagine how difficult it must be, Marcus said gently. The hardest part is knowing what's coming, Sophia continued. Knowing I'll forget Michael, Sandra, Emily, you, that one day I'll look at my own children and see only strangers. Tears welled in her eyes. That's why the exhibition mattered so much. Why the foundation matters. I need to leave something behind that can't be erased by this disease. Marcus squeezed her hand. Your legacy is secure, Sophia. Not just in your art or the foundation, but in your children. In Emily. And in you, she added softly. You're part of my legacy too now, Marcus Cole. Whether you accept Michael's offer or not. The weeks that followed brought rapid changes. Spring arrived in earnest, transforming the grounds of the Hayes estate. Sophia had more good days than bad, often spending hours in her studio creating new work. Michael reorganized his company structure, delegating more responsibility to his executive team to spend more time at home. Sandra extended her stay indefinitely, working remotely 3 days a week. Emily flourished with her family, gathered close, soaking up attention from her father, aunt, and grandmother. Marcus accepted both positions, the foundation directorship and the teaching role at Westside Community Arts Center. The arrangement allowed him to develop the foundation's programs while maintaining direct contact with the young artists he wanted to help. He moved out of the guest house into a small apartment near the Arts Center, despite Michael's protest that he was welcome to stay. The distance felt necessary, a way to establish boundaries between his work with the Hayes family and his own rebuilding life. 1 year to the day after the snowstorm that had changed everything, Marcus returned to the Hayes estate for a special dinner. Patricia had outdone herself preparing all of Sophia's favorite dishes. The dining room glowed with candlelight, the table set with the family's best china and crystal. Sophia sat at the head of the table, resplendent in a deep green dress that brought out the color of her eyes. Though thinner than she had been a year ago, her spirit remained undimmed. "A toast," Michael said, raising his glass, "to choices made in winter nights that warm us through all seasons." "To kindness that is never lost," Sandra added. "To Grandma's paintings," Emily contributed enthusiastically. "To family," Sophia said, her gaze encompassing everyone at the table, lingering on Marcus. "Those born to us and those who find us when we need them most." They drank the crystal glasses, catching the candlelight like captured stars. After dinner, while Emily helped Patricia with dessert and Michael took a business call he couldn't avoid, Sophia drew Marcus aside. "Walk with me in the garden," she asked. "I need some air." Marcus offered his arm, and they stepped outside into the mild spring evening. The garden was beautiful, early flowers blooming along the pathways, trees budding with new life. They walked slowly to a stone bench near an ornamental pond where koi fish moved like living flames beneath the surface. "A year ago today," Sophia said, settling onto the bench, "I wandered out into the snow hoping for an end. Instead, I found a beginning." "For both of us," Marcus agreed, sitting beside her. "The foundation is doing well," Sophia observed. 3 programs established already, 20 young artists with scholarships. "Thanks to your seed funding and Sandra's investment strategies," Marcus acknowledged, "the response has been beyond anything we imagined." Sophia nodded satisfaction in her expression. "And your own work, the teaching your art." "Fulfilling," Marcus said, "more than I ever expected to have again." They sat in companionable silence, watching the koi circle lazily. From inside the house came the sound of laughter at Emily's high, clear tones, mixed with Sandra's more reserved amusement. "I won't see another winter," Sophia said suddenly, her voice steady. "The doctor confirmed it last week. The disease is progressing faster than expected." Combined with my heart condition, Marcus felt as though the ground had shifted beneath him. "Sophia, it's all right," she interrupted gently. "I've made peace with it. This past year has been a gift I never expected. Seeing my family together again, the exhibition, the foundation, watching you rebuild your life." She took his hand. "I'm not afraid anymore." Marcus blinked back tears. "Have you told Michael and Sandra?" "Not yet. Tonight is for celebration, not sorrow." She squeezed his hand. "I'll tell them tomorrow. I wanted you to know first because I need to ask something of you." "Anything." "Stay with them," Sophia said, "after I'm gone. Not just as the foundation director, but as family. They'll retreat into old patterns, Michael into work, Sandra into distance. Emily will need stability, connection to her artistic side that neither of them fully understands." Her eyes held his. "Promise me you'll remind them what matters." "I already promised you that," Marcus said softly. "Promise again," Sophia insisted, "knowing what's coming." Marcus looked into her eyes, seeing the woman who had changed his life as surely as he had saved hers. "I promise." Satisfied, Sophia nodded. "Now help me back inside before they send a search party. I believe Patricia has made her famous chocolate cake." As they walked slowly back toward the warmth and light of the house, Marcus thought about choices, about a cold night and a lost woman, about kindness given freely without expectation of return, about family, those born to us and those who find us when we most need finding. Marcus, Sophia said as they reached the terrace doors. One last thing. Yes. Remember what I said in the snow about what really matters. People, Marcus quoted. Love connection. That's all that really matters in the end. Sophia smiled. Keep reminding them. And yourself. The doors opened, spilling golden light onto the terrace. Emily stood framed in the doorway, chocolate frosting already smudged on her cheek. Grandma Marcus, you're missing the cake. We wouldn't dream of it. Sophia said, her voice warm with love. Together they stepped back into the embrace of the home they had created, not through blood or birth, but through choices made in the darkness of winter nights. Choices to stay rather than walk away, to give rather than preserve, to love rather than fear. Choices that in the end made all the difference.